Okay, so we're going to work through hyperbolas and completing the square a little bit. I'm going to show you the process for this and just kind of work through a couple of problems. So first thing I want to point out is that I noticed that it's 9y squared minus x squared. So I know that my parabola, or my hyperbola, sorry, is going to take the form then of y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared is equal to 1. So I'm going to group my variables together and move my constant over to kind of reflect sort of that setup, okay? So I'm going to start with 9y squared plus 54y, and then I'm going to throw in my blank, and then minus, and then I'm going to do x squared plus 2x plus blank, and I'm going to move that 62 over to the other side. Now, don't forget, when you're moving a constant to the other side, you are changing its sign. Do not forget to do that. And then because I have two blanks on the left, I'm going to add 2 to the right, okay? Now, I'm going to sort of look at these separately. Oop, I don't want to do that parenthesis there yet because I want to explain what that is. So let me start with the y's. The first thing we want to do is factor out the number in front of the y squared. So I'm going to factor out a 9 here, which leaves me with y squared plus 6y. And I'm just going to carry that blank down. Okay. Doesn't really matter yet because I haven't filled it in yet. Now over here, I'm going to factor out a -1 or a minus, right? Which leaves me with x squared minus 2x. The blanks are always plus. Don't worry about the sign on that because we're always adding it, okay? So it'll get factored in when we do it to the other side. Now I want to complete the square like I normally would. So I'm going to take half of 6, which is 3, and I'm going to square it, which is 9. But now over here in this blank, I'm not going to write a 9. I'm going to write a 9 times the 9 that's out front, which is an 81. Okay, everybody see what I did there? So I took the 9, and instead of just adding this 9 in the blank to the other side, I multiplied it by the 9 that was out front, and that's what gets added to the other side. You have to account for the fact that we factored out a value here, okay? And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take half of 2, which is 1. 1 squared is 1. But again, I'm not going to add a 1. I'm going to multiply that by what's out front, which is a -1, and so I'm going to add a -1 over here. This is looking pretty good on the left side here. So I'm going to combine my numbers over here on the right, and I get, let's see, 80 minus 62, which would be 18. Okay? Now, the last thing to remember, and here's how we get the fractions, is that the equation is always equal to 1. So I'm going to divide everything by whatever this number is over here. In this case, it's 18. And then I'm going to simplify. So over here, I can cancel out the 9 and the 18, which leaves me with a 1 over 2. So I have y plus 3 squared over 2 minus, and then over here, the 1 and the 18 don't cancel other than, divide a 1, which does nothing, right? So I'm going to leave this as x minus 1 squared over 18, and that's going to be equal to 1. Now my lovely equation is in standard form, and I'm ready to tell what's the center, what's A, what's B, find my vertices, my co-vertices, all of that fun information, okay? Let's try another one. We're going to kind of follow the same format here, and I'm noticing that this one is y squared minus x squared again, so I'm going to group the variables and adjust to that. So I'm going to start again by grouping my y's, and I'm going to throw that blank in. And then I'm going to group my x's. Again, another blank. And then I'm going to move the 142. Notice I changed its sign from positive to negative when I moved it to the other side, okay? Now I'm going to factor by whatever's in front of the squared term. So I'm going to factor out a 9, and 108 divided by 9 is 12. And then over here, I'm actually going to factor out a -14, okay? Which leaves me with x squared plus 4x. You really, the big thing about hyperbola is you really got to watch your signs, okay? Remember that you're factoring out a negative whatever, in this case, -14. And so you have to factor out a negative 14 from 56, which becomes a positive 4. Please be very careful with your signs. If you're not, you might mess something up, adding instead of subtracting or vice versa. Okay? So now I'm going to complete the square. So half of 12 is 6. So I'm going to take y minus 6 squared is 36. But now remember, I'm not adding 36 to the other side. I'm adding whatever 36 times 9 is to the other side, which is 324. Okay? So I have to multiply that 36 by that 9, and then that's what I add to the other side. Because you're adding not just the constant, but you're adding, remember, because we factored the 9 out earlier, this number here would be whatever 36 times 9 is that we would have then factored out, if that makes sense. I hope it does. So I'm going to come over here and complete the square again. Half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4, but again, I'm not going to add 4 to this side. I'm going to add 4 times negative 14, which is negative 56. And then I'm going to add all these together. So negative 142 plus 324 plus negative 56 gives me a total of 126. And then last but not least, I'm going to divide everything by 126 so that I get it equal to 1, which again is the goal, okay? And let's see, 126 divided by 9 is 14. So I'm going to get y minus 6 squared over 14. And then 126 divided by 14 is 9. So I'm going to get this over 9. And then 126 divided by 126 gives me that lovely, that lovely 1. So again, I've gotten my equation into standard form. I can find the center, I can find A and B, and kind of go from there with all of the information. So this is specifically completing the square. We will still go back and do all of the graphing and all of the other things with these formulas. I just wanted to go through how to complete the square with this. Similar to ellipses, but remember an ellipse has a plus in the middle. Otherwise, the completing the square process is pretty much the same. So best of luck to you. Hope it goes great.